Firstly, our sincere apologies that we are very behind schedule, just like the nuclear sector, sometimes behind schedule. It happens in the nuclear conference also. We are behind schedule, so we will try to do some fleet mode and try to express. We will try to catch up. We are currently at minus 60 minutes, so I would appreciate if when for people asking questions, we get straight to the point. Ask the questions. If you want to have lengthy conversations, you can have it over coffee. But I'm sure everyone here would like to listen to all the presentations, and we are on schedule. Let's give the nuclear sector a good name and be on schedule and be on track. So we'll try to catch up a little bit so that we can all finish on time and on schedule. So Vinay, let's go on for the next.
Thank you, Zaf. Yeah, surely time. We need to manage our time and quickly catch up with the schedule that we have. That we are already behind. So now starting with the session on financing, economics, and strategy, we have with us Mr. N.R. Choudhary, Executive Director, Commercial, Nuclear Power Corporation of India. Mr. Choudhary, I would like to welcome you on the podium, please.
Good afternoon, all of you. And I would thanks Vinit for giving me opportunity to speak on the issue, which was widely raised yesterday and even today also. Some of the aspects my colleague Baburaj will be touching about funding of and financing of nuclear power plant. I just like the analogy given by Dr. Nayak about the test match and 2020. I would extend the same analogy in the context of panel discussion we had just few minutes back. There was a reference of the fact, I don't draw any inferences were intended, that we missed the target of 10,000 by 2000. We missed the target of 20,000 by 2020. And all that's fine. But it would be unfair to compare the capacity addition of renewables with nuclear. By giving the same analogy, striking rate of Virat Kohli in T20 matches cannot be compared with Sunil Gavaskar 221 innings in 1979 Oval match. Purposely different. In test match, you have to be there and continue to be there. Like any capacity addition, solar, wind, if anything goes wrong, the reverse gear of the economy will not be activated. But now when we are looking towards nuclear for the future for energy security, any slight mishap, I'm not saying of the order of Fukushima or 3 Mile Island or any other Chernobyl-like thing, small thing, the public perception, which already is misperception about slightly cautious about nuclear, may turn the entire wheels in other direction. So our capacity addition, with thanks and to support of industry partners also, is ensuring, like our Srinivas sir has said, safety first and safety above every all. This is nothing to defend, there is nothing to talk about that, but it is a fact of the matter. And the same is the problem what nuclear industry has been facing. A template of conventional engineering and conventional power sources is inadvertently put upon nuclear, and then conclusions are drawn about power being costly, power being cheap, the project delays, time delays, and all that. Some things are factual and something needs a introspection to be done by the industry to improve, and all our industry, where they say all the partners in the ecosystem, like Agakar said from Godrej said, and all L&T and other partners, we are doing it that. Now my focus on this presentation will be basically, when we want to add the nuclear capacity, we have to correct the perception in the minds of the people. Like yesterday we have said, and it has been rightly mentioned also, it is not true that nuclear power is non-competitive. It is very much competitive if you factor all the features of nuclear power appropriately in pricing structure. And that is what would be I been giving a seed of thought today. It is slightly different suggestion I am making. It may be right or it may be wrong, but we need to think about it and we have to pursue about it. And that would be the one aspect. Another aspect also about the funding, I will slightly touch the issue only. Further issue, my colleague Baburaj will be taking into that. Okay, so let's move on to it. You can feel free to ask me question whenever you feel after the presentation is over or during also. Now see, we have nuclear power in the world today, which is 1950s they started with the first commercial operation. All these three reactors which I mentioned were not for necessarily commercial only, like Cadagol for the platinum production purpose for defense and other activities. The first one we can say shipping port, atomic power station of US, which was started in somewhere in 1957. Now 7 decades down the line, the world capacity is around almost 400 gigawatt with 440 megawatt, 440 reactors operating, and about 10% of the world's energy is produced by nuclear energy. But this journey of 7 decades was not that easy. Not only for I'm talking from Indian context, for the global context for the nuclear. All along the nuclear industry, apart from constructing the power plant, ensuring its safety, forced experienced a pressure all along the population of the world, and it was rightfully so, nothing to say wrong, that nuclear powers are safe in operation and they can produce the electricity at cost competitiveness. Now, such pressure was partially due to genuine anxiety of the sections of the people, because nuclear technology is not easily understood by everybody. So obviously, the tendency of human being is to be anxious whether it is safe or not. That was genuine and that can be addressed. And partially, it was an articulated propaganda, if I can make that statement here, by sections of the people across the globe who had vested interest in opposing the nuclear power. And now we have to see what is the future for the nuclear industry. And rather, if I put it other way, nuclear industry or nuclear power sector is the future of the world to come. Now it's inevitable to accept the inevitability of nuclear power. Since long time we knew that fossil fuels are not going to last forever. And maybe after 1 century, 2 centuries, it will be over and we needed to have a energy security, so nuclear power was going on. But now a climate change discussion, it was not a sudden outbreak that climate change was noticed by the people. It was there in the 90s also, 1997 Kyoto Protocol also, but it was conveniently ignored by the developed nations. They didn't want to address because they want to end, and developing countries have their focus on something else. But now it has become imminent for the world because the sheer existence of the life on this planet is getting threatened. So climate change has become imminent, and now this has made it inevitable almost for the all universal people to accept the inevitability of nuclear power. I will just have a caveat what Dr. Kakodkar also said yesterday. Universal maybe still 100% universal not be there. Some people who still have some sentiments about against the nuclear will may continue to oppose it, but it is now accepted fact in the minds of the people that nuclear energy will be inevitable. Even India has already committed to a net zero targets. Now to achieve this, and that is for what purpose, and I will thank INBP also for arranging this, we are doing a brainstorming here how to go ahead with that and how to really put that. Now it needs a carefully articulated and effectively executed plan for achieving this net target. Merely speaking and doing the paperwork addition would not help. Though it is not my subject matter of expertise, just still I will divert and take a permission. I agree with our Margot sir when he mentioned in the morning that SMR technology is staying on the drawing board to say extent, and certainly it will be future, and what it will be can be used for replacing the decommissioned thermal power plants. But would that pace be sufficient to achieve the target of net zero by 2070? That was, I think, subtle question that was posed, and I agree with that. But nevertheless, without talking about technology, because that is not my domain, I will go ahead. Now, India initially in INDC, that is intended nationally determined contribution in COP21 in Paris, had declared some, they have been partially modified in September 22 also, but I will not go into that detail. Even in COP26, Glasgow, we have emphasized. Now, these are the few bullets which are standard government declaration. The gist what I want to draw, there is a major thrust on decarbonization of our power production and replacing it with another power producing. Though there have been numbers given for the renewables and other, but the major thrust I am drawing that is to decarbonize our power. So, reliance on fossil fuel based production of power we have to get away with, whichever the plants are getting decommissioned, without compromising the availability of energy to our generation, because that is key, as Sir Kakodkar sir had mentioned yesterday, Human Development Index and economic growth, we have to ensure that also, and balanced approach has to be taken, but thrust will be to decarbonize it. Now, what are the major challenges if you just try to put it in succinct manner? Decarbonization will require replacing the retiring fossil-based power plant with reliable baseload generation plant. And then that will be only ensuring a status quo of the power capacity available. We have to increase the power generation also to meet the aspirations of our people, coming generation, power capacity. Now when electric vehicle come, again the need of electricity will be more. Instead of using the petrol and gasoline directly to drive the vehicle, we have to have additional electric capacity. So this we have to require. And any failure in achieving this, either substituting the decommissioned fossil fuel based plant or adding new power plant would have a serious adverse impact on our economy and the development of the nation. We have been carrying the tag of developing nation for past few decades since my childhood. And we are eager, all of us, to get out of that tag and move to a developed nation tag. And that can't be done without the sufficient quantity of energy reliably available for our economy. Now, what are the sources of power? Now, these are the well-known sources of power. There is nothing new. I have just captured the major one only who can cater to the large power requirement we are talking about. That's what I'm not getting on biomass and all that. Among the renewables, wind, solar, and small hydros are there. And the nuclear is another. These are the obviously way to take it. Now, we need to compare this thing. All along, again, I would not say statement. Sometimes inadvertently or maybe due to lack of a thorough study and do that, just statement which is floating around is picked up and being used. Or sometimes it's intentionally, maybe the lobbies who are keen to earn quick returns through the renewable power plant installation. There is always case made nuclear versus renewable. But that is not the case at all. We have to come out of that thought process first of all. It is nuclear and renewable. Policymakers also maybe should not be viewing it as a competing powers or mutually exclusive sources for the future capacity addition. These are complementary and must coexist for meeting the power requirement. However, the growth of this power sector is not only driven by the policymakers. The public at large and India being the biggest democracy, public opinion drives the policymakers' action, though they know sometimes it is not right because the democratically people's views are the important. So many times the discoms who buy the power, ultimately any investor who invests into a generating company, as we have seen the question also coming from Gaikwad sir, that who would be investing in this power sector capacity? They would be not huge profit, but at least appropriate profit return of their capital will be estimated. And that will ultimately come into reality when we sign the power purchase agreement with the discom. Now the discom decides signing the power purchase agreement by the State Electric Regulatory Commission. Again, it is a public body which listens to the public opinion. So the rate at which they sign the power purchase agreement gives the opinion in the mind of the people whether they should prefer renewable, which apparently gives a cheaper source of power in their perception compared to nuclear. So we have to address this issue, and this issue I am just making a beginning today. Maybe collectively we have to take, it won't be done overnight, and this thing. Now for realistic comparison, I have made just two things. What are the realistic limitations of the renewables? And how do we address the misperceived notion or wrongly propagated information about competitiveness of nuclear power or rather non-competitiveness of nuclear power? Now let's see issues about the renewable energy first. Now the vulnerability of the electricity grid is subjected to the excessive reliance of wind power is a very alarming one, and in September 21 or that period, date I may not be not perfectly quoting, if people have been following, in the UK they have faced, and that is called as calm wind in the North Sea. Now let's see what has happened that time. Britain for past decade had lowered their base load generation even from the gas-based power station, fossil-based power station, obviously with a good faith and good intention to decarbonize the power sources and clean power, and excessive reliance was placed on wind and solar. Now what happened in September, suddenly there was a wind stopped flowing. That's a geographical, it's not where it is controlled. And the weather was also very cloudy in nature. Now obviously the UK was facing a totally energy crisis, that electricity will not be available. And the prices had shot up to, if you convert into Indian currency, almost 30 rupees a unit. So somehow UK, again, still having the resources, population not being that big, could manage to tide over side. But that has given a alarm to everybody. Just be cautious. Renewable overall on 100% or even beyond certain percentage would not be solution. It will be putting your economy and grid to a vulnerability. And as I said, when we do decarbonization, availability of appropriate quantity of reliable 24/7 electricity energy to our citizens, industries, economies, growth is a must factor, and that is a constraint within which we have to work. So obviously with this lesson, even UK and even Germany has now again started rethinking whether they can excessively depend only renewables only, and obviously the answer is big no. So this is the same thing what I will not take with them. Now therefore now it becomes a question, is renewable fully reliable? And now the current policymakers will only get skewed just because the public opinion and the power purchase agreement signing discoms, who ultimately get their decision driven by the vote bank and the people's opinion flown through the State Electric Regulatory Commission, can do in this thing. So we have to really take a call onto this. So these are the basic issues about renewable grid instability, sudden interruption of electricity supply, consequential surge in electricity prices, and short term, medium term, affecting economic growth also. Apart from this, there is again apple to orange comparison. All the time, generally, when we compare the tariff, it is compared at X bus. Nuclear is this much and solar is this much. But there is a cost of integration of these variable renewable energy sources that grid has to bear, and ultimately is borne by the ultimate customer. The total research of the transmission engineers, electrical engineers, is not still complete in this thing, and it is still an area where even our Central Electric Authority, OECD authorities, they are working into this and to work out this research, what would be exactly cost. But tentatively, few numbers have been worked out. These are the just basic costs that affect this profile cost, balancing cost, grid cost. Anyway, we will not go into that detail. And what even CA conducted a study in 2017. So over and above that 2 rupees or 2 rupees 25 paisa of solar or renewable price that was being talked about, the grid has to bear an additional cost of around 1 rupee 50 paisa per kilowatt hour. And it is expected to grow if the renewable percentage in the grid goes up. We have seen last decade it has gone up very substantially, and if that goes up, it will go up. So ultimately, the landed cost of the electricity for the ultimate customer, including this integration cost, ultimately it will be recovered from him will not be less than 3.5 to 4 rupees. This is just OECD study in 2015, what they have indicated over here. LCO is the basic cost, and each element that has got added to the integration cost for the renewable energy. Now again, the same thing, then what are the challenges we are facing ahead as a nuclear industry? Now, though I will be talking about nuclear, but I will be focusing more on the Indian context, what we do, and meeting our government's Honorable Prime Minister target to ensure we take a concrete steps and move ahead in a speedy manner. Now this I will say, not in T20 manner, at least in one day manner, to achieve this target. Now what are the basic challenges we have? First of all, we have to address the misconception that nuclear power is non-competitive. Now how do we do that? It can't be just by making an advertisement or following that. We have to make a really structural changes in the pricing of nuclear power. Already Dr. Kakodkar committee is working on that. I am also got a privilege to work with that. We are addressing those issues. And that thing, and we are doing away with the template that has been imposed over the decades of a thermal power electricity pricing, hydropower electricity pricing, initially done by CA and now CRC. We are doing away with that because that utterly fails to capture the positive points of nuclear power, that is a longer time life and all that. So we are evolving a structure that will capture it and will bring out the real competitive nature of the nuclear power. Now we have to engineer the finance product also. Though this my colleague Babuga will be speaking, I will just say that. When I do say financial engineering is to be done, I do not mean the financial engineering which Goldman Sachs does, Morgan Stanley does. No. As a financial analyst also, I will say that is not financial engineering. It is only a mechanism using higher order mathematical derivatives to say how the money can be moved from this one pocket to the other pocket. And we have seen the consequences, prime lending crisis in 2007, which wiped off the big bank also. I am saying engineering of the finances means like the basic engineering. Whenever we design any machine, and any machine part is to be decided which material is to be used, we see what are the thermal stresses it is going to be pushed at all if it is exposed to thermal environment. Are these stresses cyclic? what are the mechanical stresses, what is the cyclic, what is the life of that machine part we intend, and accordingly we engage a material science or metallurgical engineer to work out a alloy which is suitable for this kind of thing. Like even we can give our EMCCI channel from Zircon and we move to Zircon niobium to avoid the creep related issue. But in finance we do not do that. We just go to the market and off-shelf product we pick up and give it for the financiers. Now that approach has to be changed. Whenever we were discussing with even ED Finance, I think EDF people may be available. Through them, we facilitate discussion with consortium of bankers to fund the Jaitapur load. All the time, OECD guidelines we are quoted. No, we are not going to be bound by OECD guidelines. If I require a particular type of metal for my machine, I do require it. So similarly, now we have to insist off-the-shelf financial products available for traditional companies, manufacturing companies are not suitable. And that kind of financial product, if we rely upon, suppresses the long-term advantage nuclear power has and gives rise to all these issues. So maybe we have to make a beginning. Financial sector may oppose it initially, but ultimately that will turn out, it won't be turning out within 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but at least a decade and the step has to take. That is the second issue I will be talking. And obviously there is the issue of mobilizing the huge quantum of finances that would be required for accelerated capacity addition. So that is a basic issue also. Like Gaikwad Sir has also said that. So there are two issues. First of all, do we have such finance available first of all? Like do I have sufficient water in the well to fetch it? How to fetch it and get it is a secondary issue. How to ensure and attract the investors. So that also a border level issue needs to be handled. Now let's see misconception about nuclear power being costly. Now, I know the program I am talking, that's why I have taken the very dependable numbers published by Power Finance Corporation and they have sourced it from Central Electricity Authority. Now, this graph shows is the average cost of supply which Indian citizens had over a period of time from 2004 to 5. It's a sufficiently long period, 18 years, to do a sufficient statistical info. This is the average cost of supply, including everything. Generation cost, transmission cost, wheeling charges, and it's a mix of the whatever the power India has produced over these years and supplied to its country. It's the average power of that. Now let's see if we superimpose the nuclear generation cost. This is the nuclear generation cost. I know it is not comparable, it's apple and oranges, because I am talking of nuclear generation X-bus cost average, and that is the cost red curve, including the transmission and wheeling charges. But to quote the authentic figures, I didn't want to manipulate or modify it myself, so that I leave it to this thing. So isn't this gap sufficiently, which was very minimal in the initial year 2004-5, which has widened substantially by the time we came to 2020-21. I didn't have authentic data beyond that, so I did not put it because I want to be facts and figures only. Now it's a proof of pudding is in eating is. Can anybody, do I inference nuclear power is costly? Or we have the mix of all the power plants over here and past 18 years data. Rather, whatever the cost we as an Indian power sector supplying to my ultimate consumer, nuclear power generation cost is far, far, far lesser compared to that. But obviously, we as a Department of Atomic Energy, being involved in technical developments, technical achievement, and proudly to be so that somehow this dimension had got ignored, and we have to facts we have to put up in the proper perspective, and we have to populate along among the figures so that this misconception goes. So these red curves indicate. Now these red curves indicate how much my generation cost was less compared to the average cost of supply that Indian citizen got. And I think everybody is wise enough to draw at least a conclusion. It is not non-competitive. It is rather very much competitive for them. Now, evolving a policy that would enable to take a benefit of the longer life of the plant. Now, the major issue about the nuclear power plant, it is a capital intensive. Obviously, because of safety requirement and to ensure that we do not falter in meeting these compliances, entire the ecosystem, including not only the building design and nuclear power corporation, AERB, who is a regulator, manufacturing industry support, we take all the utmost care to ensure the safety of the people around the nuclear plant and the citizen. That takes us some time overrun, cost overrun. So now this capital cost, how do we recover it from our tariff? It's a basically recovery of capital cost. Frequently it is misreferred as a depreciation because that is accounting concept. Here talking of revenue side. And the cost of the funds, whatever fund we invest, it is a cost associated with that. Now the fund being the two-part equity and debt, it's a return on equity and interest on loan. Now let's see the first term. Recovery of the capital cost when I do that. Just I will be quick, I will explain through the graph. Now these blue lines are the lines if I recover the capital cost spread over the life of the plant. I will just take a plain mathematics, forget about the salvage value and all that final accountancy term. If 100 rupees I have invested and I have to recover in 40 years, I should charge 2.5 per year. That is the same thing. Then only will be there. But now there is another aspect of it. If my plant is totally invested by equity, where my equity investor is not hurried about recovering the capital, that's fine. I am funding my capital cost 70% by the debt. And the tenure of the loan which I get, 7 years construction plus 15 years after commercial, even if I say 22, it is I am stretching. That time also it is not available. Then I am under obligation, this red curve, to repay my debt in 15 years. If I don't do that, the company will be in cash crisis. And then any default, insolvency, bankruptcy court that gets attracted. So there is an asset liability mismatch. And this is the point I was referring, because we go for the off-shell products available in the market. If a banker says me, no, I can't go give me beyond 15 years, I say fine. We have to change that. We have to, because otherwise this advantage will be going. This is the same thing I am putting the line. The red line is what we can recover if you link with the life of the rector, and blue is what I have to recover to avoid any cash crisis for the company or getting a default in the road. So when you load that blue curve in the tariff, obviously tariff becomes the front loaded. Now just I will go to another aspect. Now this is the ultimately tariff come. Don't go by the number. These are the fictitious numbers just to explain the nature. This is the tariff which appears for 40 years, even if you work out consider. So obviously it is front loaded because of the other. Now what are the components that cause it for the front loading? Major part is loan tenure not being available. We have been proactively in the talk with many government companies like Power Finance Corporation, Rural REC Finance Corporation. They have agreed to give us around 32 years loan. So I can avoid the front loading to some extent, and this brown color graph will be coming. And now we are working on another concept, like as I said, doing away with the template of the thing. This blue line will be the tariff which will be uniform across the year. I will just quickly skip through and explain those concepts merely. Now let's see what is happening now today. This red color line is the total cost of funds, what I have invested in the thing, that is return on capital, what investor will expect. Above dark blue line is if you add the depreciation component. The dark blue line is the basically line related to capital cost, and other difference between the light brown or orange line and the dark blue line is the operating cost, which is fairly constant. Now why it has happened? I charge return on equity at uniform 15.5% throughout the life. Interest on loan is in reducing balance, so that skews the graph and it makes it front loaded. Overcover or at a depreciation which is at higher rate to enable the loan repayment. So that results in the front loading. Other components are fairly equal. Now what is the way out? I will just quickly, because of short of time, I will skip this. Okay. Now this is the thought we are now thinking that we should have to evolve for the nuclear power plant. Now all along CERC, CA talks of constant return on equity of 15.5 throughout the life. We will also charge the return on equity so that in net present value government doesn't lose. It gets 15.5% equivalent. But we'll charge in a different manner. Initially we'll charge less return on equity. Okay. Initially we'll charge less return on equity to match the repayment of loan also. As the repayment on loan reduces and initially we'll raise the return on equity higher. So the red color line is return on investment, and that remains fairly constant. Then if you add depreciation, that also remains constant, then tariff becomes a indirectly uniform tariff and that front loading gets avoided. So this is the concept we are working, and that's what I'm saying we have to do away with the template of thermal power station. So this is the ultimately what will happen. The orange color graph will turn out to be blue color graph, and then that works out to be very fine. Now just this I will skip quickly. This is the last slide. What other thing we have to do? Because the nuclear power plant has said to match the tariff and avoid front loading, my loan should be available commensurate to the life of the plant. So maybe 30 years after the commercial operation. If you add 7 years during the commercial operation, it turns out to be 40 years. Now no investors, if you're seeing from their shoes, will take that much risk to invest that. So again, we are thinking on one more model in our DI high level committee. During the we'll separate out the construction phase risk from the operation phase risk. So during the construction phase, what we are proposing, a government-owned SPV should mobilize the funds from retail investors by tax-free bond, like Guy Person has explained about petrol bond. So this is only for 7 years, and they are going to give it to purely government-owned SPV. So repayment of this will be assured by the government. Government gives adding the proper commercial margin to loan to a nuclear power generator or nuclear power constructing project for 7 years period. After 7 years period, when project becomes commercial, the loan will be due for repayment. Then we go to the commercial bankers or commercial investors. So for him, the project is there to generate the electricity. The construction risk of time relay overrun, cost overrun, like Finland had experience in Areva project also, now EDF projects. That risk is gone for him. So he can charge me cheaper rates. Revenue starting flowing. He can see the commercial operation for 1 year period. And that will be comfortable, giving comfort to him. Now I solicit from him around 30 to 30 years loan repayment. That will be available cheaper cost also. And that time we can do that. So these models also we are thinking on it. I think my colleague Baburaj will be taking over because he will have further insight into this thing. And that's what. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the informative presentation. And now taking it forward, I would request Mr. K. N. Baburaj, Executive Director Finance, Nuclear Power Corporation, to come on the podium, and he will be delivering his talk on innovative financing and investment mechanism for climate action to meet net zero objective. Mr. Baburaj.
Good afternoon, sirs. When you speak to an august audience who are better informed or equally informed, I am reminded of the puja that is performed in Indian family. When puja is performed in Indian family, it ends with saying, Mandrahinam, Kriyahinam, Bhaktihinam Janardana, Yat Pujidam Mayadeva, Paripurnam Tadasyade. To put it in short, there are deficiencies, but please accept it as full, looking at the intention. Similarly, I would also suggest the same here, because I have not come, this financial management is a subject which everyone is expert. I have not come across any human being who told me that I have a lot of money, but I don't know how to manage. Everyone has their own perspective of managing money, and I respect all of them. I only wanted to say a few things from the perspective of Nuclear Power Corporation, and on behalf of the investors at large in Indian market, I would like to submit few points to you. Now, to begin with the topic, there cannot be a better time frame to debate on this subject, because India is taking over G20 presidency. Government of India has clearly stated their objectives of 2050 to be 5 lakh gigawatt generation from clean energy sources, by 2070 to be net zero carbon emission. So these targets can be achieved only with participation, and as Nitin said, with an augmented participation from nuclear energy. Now, how to mobilize money for this nuclear energy? We will try to debate what are the innovative financing methods that has been practiced elsewhere in the world. We'll try to touch upon. I'm sure that you are all aware. I will only like to debate from the perspective whether whatever is practiced elsewhere, is it possible here? We will try to limit that, because rest I am not an expert and you are all not novice. So we will try to debate what is possible elsewhere. Is it not possible in India? That would be my attempt. There is a lot of debate that nuclear energy, what are the troubles, is the business in cash. So this, as you are all aware, 22 operating stations currently Nuclear Power Corporation has. And the amount of revenue that has been generated in the last year, I am keeping it open in front of you, 6,454 crores of profit after tax over an equity investment of 13,000 odd crore. We have paid to government 10% dividend during the last year, only dividend. Around 560 rupees of earnings per share over 1,000 rupees face value. Successively last 90, 96, 97 was the last year wherein there was a loss. Unfortunately, there was fire in Narora and that had its own impact. Otherwise, last 25 years, this was profit generating. And you may debate, but this is one of the best performing PSU as on today by any comparable measures that you may try to debate upon. So I think it is in front of you that nuclear business is in the cash. Now, how to manage the future business, how to mobilize money is an issue which we can debate. But so far, let me tell you, Nuclear Power Corporation today, as on today, around 63,000 crores of debt is in its books. Roughly around 49,000 crore is from Indian market, maybe 24,000 crores from corporate loan through various banks in the form of corporate loan, and around roughly 25,000 crores in the form of bond issue. 34th series of bond issue we are doing in the market. Next week you will see our next series of bond. And in the past few years, if you look at it, there has been instances. Please refer the annual report of NPCIL which is available in the public. You can rest assure yourself that I am not boasting anything. There has been instances wherein 10-year bonds of NPCIL has been subscribed at 5 or 10 basis points below the 10-year government security. And I would not be surprised even in the next week when we are coming in the market, the yield that is on the 10-year bond of NPCIL is below the government securities. So on one, there is no reason to debate why NPCIL will not get money from the debt market in future as we have performed in the past. Of course, we are talking numbers which are all much larger. But then Indian market or even global market, there is no positive of fund. What has to be done is demonstrate successive performance. That's what is needed. Probably accusing NPCIL or Indian nuclear power program as a whole, you can find 99 reasons. But then when technology changes, the entire environment change because of Fukushima, it would be foolish on the part of the scientific community not to review, not to incorporate changes which are required for public safety. So that only has been done. Probably one or two challenges we have faced, maybe by enhancing 540 to 700 and not able to, as some of the delegates said that we have not contributed any additional capacity in the last 5 years, 7 years. I accept all those things. But then which are the other businesses who have not faced challenges? Which are the other businesses who are sure that they will not be facing challenges in future? We have made a mistake, but the overall point to be taking home is nuclear power is in the business. Nuclear power is a business in cash. Yes, what are the challenges that we faced? We faced initial megawatt per megawatt cost is slightly higher than competitiveness of tariff, as Nitin Choudhary explained well. 3 rupees 34 paise is the average cost at which we have pumped in 47,000 million units into the grid. Now, if you say that 3 rupees 34 paise is costly, then the general public is expecting free energy, probably nuclear energy may not be the option. But then overall, if you compare, this is the best possible energy source from an end-to-end basis, the least carbon emission to the atmosphere. But if you want everything free, probably there is no source which will be meeting our requirements. So we have to be moderate. We have to be balanced in our demand. We have to be expecting what is possible to be made available. Of course, you are all aware, maybe from a Union Carbide issue or anything else, a CLND Act was appropriately decided to be incorporated by the legislators, and that has added a little bit of problems. And obviously, we have come across with solutions to tide up that. Then, anybody else, whomsoever is in the thermal field, they know that 80IA benefits were available to them. 80IA benefits were available to us also. And that has been discontinued with effect from 1st April 2017. So that is further adding to the taxability aspects. Then addition in the cost of GST implementation, because there was a scenario wherein mega power project concession with the terminal excise duty refund, nil custom duty benefits available, which is discontinued with effect from 1st September 2023. Then there was possibility of interstate sale with a 2% CST, which has been done away altogether. So these type of scenarios, and all the more when GST says that if the end product is not taxable, then input tax credit is not available. Naturally, there will be a lot of challenges to be faced. But then, as some wise men said, when it is raining, have you got what? Wet? It's a question not being asked. How relatively you are wet is only what you have to see. And I think that NPCIL has only successful stories to be shared in this regard. And concurrent regulation, of course, that is what is being practiced in India. So that is something which we will definitely have to be accepting it as the accepted standard. And then land requirement, that is already discussed with. Now, if you look at what are the challenges, yes, capital intensive project, but then when you, on one side it is capital intensive, but otherwise you look at the long life of the plant. Over long period of years, I have shown you the 22 cash cows that we are milking as on date. So if you are a willing participant in this business, you are always welcome. And I also, sorry to deviate from the topic, during the debate it was said that decentralization, but how much you are expecting from a government of India? It is most friendly as far as nuclear business is concerned. There is 49% presence is invited from private sector, even in the operations. With the government of India, 51% today, it is even operation is permitted in the manufacturing, in the construction, in the service, in the consultancy. Nobody is barred from participating in nuclear power. So all of a sudden, if you want 100% privatization, probably I think that may not be the right process. As Mago sir said, no amount of time you spend in walking around the swimming pool, you will not learn the swimming. Please try to enter into the swimming pool. Probably thereafter you will be well versed with the water and then swimming. The only trouble or the concern that an investor, especially from an equity investor, that is that how this the electricity market is going to be. In a regulated electricity market, investor from an equity perspective, there is no worry. There is assured rate of return of investment on investment. But then if liberalized the markets are, you don't know what will be the pricing of electricity going to be in future. There are some concerns. So there we need to be worried about. But then you look at the international market, there are many countries who are practicing liberalized markets in the electricity. There what they have done, let us try to look at it. Probably those are the solutions for Indian market also. Then it is a very general concept when everybody says that government should come, government ownership, government should be investing directly and indirectly. Yes, because government money is just 5-10 minutes. Yeah. government money is public money. So government spending everything just to make your and my life easy is not the best way. One has to find out what is the balanced method. Now, to cut short, since Vinay Saab is saying that the time is less, so we would be trying to go fast into the options. Yeah, you see, please, what was done in Hinkley Point in UK? Contract for differences, CFD. What is the mechanism there? That the developer, consortium of EDF and other investors is entering into a contract CFD. The counterparty to CFD is assuring the rate, which is called as a strike rate. And if the markets already tell you that the rates are lower, then obviously CFD will be taking a risk. CFD will be bearing the brunt. Obviously, CFD mechanism in UK is a government supported mechanism. So therefore, government will be recovering some additional money on account of the CFD risk that has been met by the CFD counterpart. Similarly, if you see in France, this has been already dealt with. That is currently also there are multiple sources of funding supported with export credit agency backed funding of various countries, be it US Exim, COFAS, BP in France, Korean Exim. They have all funded the Baraka project, the Turkey project. So these are in front of us. So a long-term commitment of credit at a reasonable rate. You please look at the Kudankulam 3, 4 and 5, 6 project, wherein 40 yearly installments repayment after first 1 year after commercialization of the project is what Russian government has committed. And the interest rates which are stated along with that export credit is 1.5, 150 basis points above the USD LIBOR. Now, USD LIBOR itself has gone above 4%, but the ceiling at 3% has been committed. Similarly, once the commencement of commercial generation starts, again, USD LIBOR plus 175 basis points with a ceiling of at 4%. So these rates are available. If you are willing to participate in the nuclear power program, there is opportunity. It is not only in India, elsewhere in the world it is available. As you are all aware, when USD LIBOR ceased to exist from 30th June 2023, the mechanism, migration mechanism from USD LIBOR to SOFR also has been dealt with as of now. Then even private corporate, normally equity financing is either done by government or by private or corporate financing followed in various countries. Then even cooperative financing, Mankala model it is called as. In Finland, a group of heavy industries who are consuming large amount of power has made a consortium for funding the entire Finland nuclear power plant. So there the scheme is that they are not expecting any dividend. They are expecting their share of power. Either they will consume the power or they will be selling, they will have the right to sell it in the market. So from there is a lot to learn from the international market. Even please look at the Turkish nuclear power plant. It is built on operate system. Rosatom is building it up there. What is the mechanism? For about 15 years, 70% of the power purchase, the Turkish government has agreed at a price of equivalent to around 9.5 to 10 rupees in Indian market, around 0.92 cents per kilowatt hour they have agreed in USD. And beyond 15 years, there is no assurance of power. The operator is free and there is an assurance of 20% profit after tax to be given to Turkish government. This is a fine example of lender financing to use the nuclear power power, building, owning, operating. Contract for differences we have already dealt with. The another model which is working elsewhere in the world is regulated asset base. A nuclear power plant is going to be built up in a county, in a town, in a state of UK. The regulator is permitting the operator to collect certain amount of money over every amount of unit energy sold, and that is collected as a regulated asset base. This regulated asset base is either used for de-risking the investor from a threshold level of investment. Say for example, to put it in our perspective, if 20 crores, 15 crores per megawatt is the expected capital cost of Haryana, if it is going, say for example, 22,000 or 23,000, beyond that, whatever is the additional cost that will come, that will be funded by this RAB. So the investor is assured that his upside risk is contained. So on the other side, say for example, an investor has to keep 30% equity on a phased manner as and when the project is successfully getting implemented. Out of 30% equity funded, 10% will be funded back by the regulatory asset base built up. What is the advantage? It is equivalent to equity. It is the fund of the investor. So there will not be return on equity. Already Nitin Choudhary has explained that one of the major component of tariff being higher is the return on equity. Almost in Indian context, 30 to 35% of a tariff is the contribution towards the return on equity. So if regulated asset base is collected and it is used to refund on a timely manner based on the successful implementation of nuclear power, probably the cost, the tariff can be reduced. So the point which I wanted to submit to you all is, if it is practical anywhere else, it is possible to be implemented in India also, because Indian market of late is very much receptive. As he has told you, 20 years bond we have done. 20 years loan is possible. PFC is willing even to take over the fund after the commencement of commercial generation for 30 years. REC is willing. LIC is willing to invest in 20 years, 15 years bond of infrastructure. So please do not continue to blame the market. Please do not continue to blame the money. Unfortunately, I practice the profession of finance, so I don't want to take blame there. If you successfully demonstrate your performance, be it in construction, be it in operation, investors will follow you. Investors will be behind with you with money. And if you are expecting returns on investments, returns of the order of investment, like in case of a hotel or anything else, probably this is not the business that one should be looking at. So I wish to assure you that if you are able to successfully perform, there is money available in Indian market and in international market also. Rest of it is just repetition for detailing. I knew that Vinay sir will not be permitting me to continue as much as I would, because I like this topic and I'm sure that you also like this topic. But then there are time constraints that needs to be respected. I only wish to submit before you that if there is a will, there is a way. Thank you so much.
Very interesting address, Mr. Baburaj, sir, and thank you for winding up. Yeah, we would love to hear you more, but yes, there's time constraint. So thank you very much, and with this address,